Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the talk show Cerita. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you so much for really taking your time to watch this talk show. It means so much. It means so much to me. I'm Natalia Cheong, a 13-year-old writer, and I really love stories, which is actually the sole reason why I started this talk show, which is basically a place where I interview and talk to different writers, storytellers, and even poets about their journey, which I have to admit is not always easy because I too, like I said, I'm a writer and I've experienced the whole writing process, which sometimes can really take a toll on your mind. But yeah, there are many different difficulties in the writing journey. But if you manage to successfully complete it, I have to say there are a lot of exciting experiences that you will encounter as well, and which really just make the whole process worth it. So yeah, if you're a writer and you're watching this, then I'm sure you would have had many ups and downs throughout your writing process. So have I. And today I have here actually an amazing person whose journey has definitely been one of perhaps the most exciting and unique ones I've ever heard of. She is an award-winning writer and poet with a passion for Malay heritage, which eventually led her to become the founder and owner of Hikayat Fandom, which is basically a place that I think really helps to preserve and expose other people to the world of amazing folk tales and storytelling, which I personally feel is really such an amazing mission and vision that they have. So yeah, I am extremely excited. I think I've said that word too many times, but I guess that really just gives you a hint of just how pumped up I am for this session, and especially since today we will be talking about what may be one of her maybe her biggest writing project ever, which I do not feel worthy enough to tell you all about it, which is just really gives you of how amazing it is. Because when I heard about it, it completely blew my mind. So please let's not waste any more time, and everyone, let's welcome Ninot Aziz to the screen.
Hi, Natalia. Thank you for that
Hi
lovely
Ninot.
introduction. Xin Nian Kuai Le. I forgot. Happy Chinese New
Oh,
Year.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, it means so much to me. Thank you so much. Yeah, but how are you? How are you? Please tell me how you're
I'm
doing.
I'm good. I'm a bit under the weather, but I'm good. I am taking the break to do a bit of writing, resting, taking care of the house, and so yeah, that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Uh, Good to hear. Please get well soon. I mean it.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, once again, thank you so much for being a part of this talk show. It means I really appreciate you taking your time to sit down here and talk to me. And yeah, it's going to be an amazing session. But actually, I like to really ask this question to anyone I meet, anyone that deals in the writing area. Before we go on to the more serious question, I'm just really curious to know what's your favorite book, since we were talking about writing. So I guess it's fitting that I ask this question about what's your favorite book and what's it all about.
Okay. Whenever anyone asks me what's my favorite book, it's so difficult to answer because in different stages of my life, I appreciate different books. For example, when I was in school, um, I was very certain that my favorite book is was and is still Wuthering Heights. Wuthering Heights by
Oh,
Emily
nice.
Bronte. I love that book. I can read it over and over again. And coming very close to Wuthering Heights at that point was Anna Karenina. But then after I left school, uh, in university, I fell in love with Dune, Frank Herbert's Dune series, which is really a story of politics, a story of family love, a story of uh, the world's sustainability, ecological impact upon the world. Is science fiction. It just blew me away with the whole universe that Frank Herbert created. So I would say, when I was in my 20s and right up till now, Dune is very high up there in being among the my favorite reads. But then again, throughout this hikayat journey, I also enjoy sejarah Melayu, Awang Sulung Merah Muda, hikayat Malim Deman, a lot of the hikayat stories. So as you can see, in my world, as I go through different stages, it's different kind of books. When I was having my girls, then at that point I read a lot of children's books, which were pretty amazing. I read Harry Potter. I read Charlie and Lola. I read books that grew up with my children, James and the Giant Peach, and all those kind of books. So suffice to say that throughout my life, I enjoy books, and I have books that mark different periods of my life.
Yeah, yeah. That is, I think that is very true, especially for every bookworm like me too. When I grew up, around 5 to 6, I think my favorite books were definitely the Roald Dahl and Enid Blyton collections, the most classic children's authors. But then, as you grow up, then your writing, your reading taste kind of changes over time, which I think is actually
Yes.
quite true for every person. So yeah, thank you so much for uh that makes a lot of sense actually. So yeah, now we shall move on to the more serious, so-called serious questions. I actually have here your book, which we will be talking about today.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
I think yeah, yeah. I've actually read it and it is amazing. The stories in it are amazing. And for those who are just only seeing this book for the very first time, this is Dragonlore. This is the amazing writing project that Ninot Aziz has been working on and that we will be talking about. And I actually feel that, like I said, I am probably not good enough to describe your book since I'm not one of the writers in it. So yeah, could you please describe your book, Dragonlore, in your own words, like what it's all about and stuff like that? Yeah.
Actually, Natalia, you'd be the perfect person to talk about it because it's written for anyone who wants to find out about the stories that move different parts of the world or are united by Dragonlore throughout the world. But just to give a little bit of introduction, Dragonlore is basically an anthology of dragon stories. I thought about writing this book in 2012, the last year of the dragon, that I wanted to put together this dragon lore from east and west because I feel that dragons are in every culture and they impact um, people from different parts of the world. And I think I'm very certain that that was important for us to preserve and also to share so that we can understand each other better. For example, I feel that dragon stories come with wisdom and is part myth, is part based on reality in terms of fears, in terms of joy, in terms of um, the evil that we see in the world and also the good we see in the world. And that's why each dragon story in dragon lore brings a different side, a different perspective based on the culture that created that story. For example, there are stories from Italy and there's stories from China and of course from our own culture, our own land. We have story of Naga Tasichini, we have story from Naga Langkawi, but then we have faraway stories from Indonesia, from Philippines and from Vietnam and from China and from Japan. And when we read the stories, I often say to myself, because I didn't travel very much for a very long time, and this is the way I travel the world by knowing the legends. And when I get to know dragon lore from everywhere, I feel that I know that part of the world a little bit more. But talking about Dragonlore again, so 24 stories by 14 writers from 10 countries. And these are writers whom uh, Emmy Award winners. They are award-winning writers and poets in their own countries, and I'm very fortunate to have them on board. Sometimes it was difficult to relate or to have a discussion with everyone because not everyone speaks in English, not everyone speaks in Bahasa. So when I had these email meetings with all of them, I had to write in four different languages: in English, in Malay, in Mandarin, and also in Italian. And that was difficult, but that was great because we just got to be a cohesive unit that talked about stories and talked about how we want this book to be projected, and it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah. I think what you said just now, I really like what you said about how the dragon stories, they kind of give different perspectives to everyone, even though it's all the same creature, but like every story kind of has its own soul, like its own uh like mind of its own, in a way that they're not all the
Exactly.
same. Yeah, even though they're the same creature, but they're all different in a way, because like you said, some of them from Italy, some of them from Philippines, Vietnam, and just so many different stories collected from different countries. It's just such an amazing thought to think about. And the fact that it has like 24 different stories, it's so amazing. And I just have to ask, because 24 different stories, right? What's your favorite one in the whole collection?
That's so difficult. That's really difficult to answer. You ask tough questions. The reason why it's difficult is because all the stories are fantastic. Really, when I read from one story to the other, it opens with Parajuk, Inui Eskimo legend from Samuel Peralta, and it is in poetry form, and it is an amazing story with rhythm, with vivid visuals, with it is so amazing. But then as you go along to each and every story, there are stories that are funny, there are stories that are sad, there are stories that are unexpected. So I can't pick a story, but that I like the most, I can't, because all of them are really amazing. The story from Cora Wang from China, it can be made into a movie. That's how good it is. But if I have to choose one, I would choose the story that started it all. This dream of writing a book of dragons was started from the story that my grandma told me, which is Nagatasik Chini. And I wrote a novel based on Nagatasik Chini in 2012. And that's when I decided there's so many different dragons around the world. I want to have those stories and put it down in a book. At that point, I thought I would be writing the whole book. So this journey with 14 other writers has been amazing. But if you ask me, one that I'm really grateful for, it is Nagatasik Chini, which put me on this journey.
Yep. That is really an that's a wonderful way to say it. Yeah, I have to agree as well. Even as I was reading through the book, and I every story is just it's really beautiful in its own way. Like how you said, the first Eskimo story, that one is in
Yeah.
poetry form, which I'm the worst at writing poetry. So the fact that someone could actually tell this wonderful story that is so full of emotion in poetry form is just beautiful. And like every story, it's just something that something unique about every single one, which I have to admit as well, that makes it really hard to choose which is probably your favorite one. But yeah, like you said earlier, Nagatasik Chini, it started you on writing Dragonlore. But I have to
Yes.
ask, cause I'm pretty sure that your writing or your storytelling journey didn't start there. I'm sure it didn't like start in 2012. Maybe it even started earlier. So I just have to ask,
Oh
how
yeah.
did you get into the storytelling and writing field? Like who, or maybe what was the catalyst for you that really made you decide that, hey, I like writing, I like storytelling too.
Okay. Um, if you ask me, falling in love with writing. Now, when I was about 11 years old, my mom sent me back to India. And in those days, it was difficult to find people to teach you to read the Quran. And so she sent me home to my kampong in Chennai. We were living in PJ at the time. And she said, why don't you take these 2 years from standard 5 and standard 6 to live with grandma and finish your Quran studies? So I did that. But she knew it could be kind of lonely. And so what she did was she sent me a book to read every week, which was not enough. But she sent me a book to read every week, be it um, Nancy Drew, or I think most of them were Nancy Drew. She also got me a full set of encyclopedia. And so reading really led me to writing, because it was around that time I started out of the blue writing poetry when I was 11 years old. And of course that started me on it, but there are people who really kept me and encouraged me to write throughout the years, which one of course was my teacher, who still encourages me until today, Mrs. Ko Chunyan, my English teacher and gymnastic coach. And she really never gives up on me. Like, she pushes me to write poetry, essays, and do our school magazine together. And finally she pushed me to keep writing novels until today. Until today she does that. So I'm lucky because I have like a life coach who set me on the path. But I have many other people. I have Mr. Rahman, who is also an editor, and uh, he was the founder of Silverfish, and he pushed me and asked me to look at different ways of writing. um, there were many people who just helped shape the way I write, and I'm very, very thankful for that, because you need to have guidance. You In writing, the first draft is never the best, and you need to have people who tell you that you need to look at things at a different perspective. You need a different point of view. You need the language has to um, have a sense of cadence, have a sense of rhythm. You need people to tell you that. And um, that is something you continuously do throughout the decades to improve your writing.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's very true actually. That how what you said just now, that you need people around you that really contribute to your writing journey, which I think it makes perfect sense, because sometimes when people ask me, what is your writing style, Natalia? I can't answer that question, because I've really just so many people around me, and also I love different authors that each part of them, it kind of
Exactly. Yes.
contributes into the way I write. So I can't say like it's just one kind of style that I write in, because it's, you exposed to different kind of styles, and it all just get like mixes up in your writing. So yeah, that makes perfect sense actually. And yeah, I think you said earlier as well, that Dragonlore, uh, 24 stories, 14 different writers from 10 different countries. That is insane. And I think you just now as well, you mentioned some of the challenges that you faced uh, while collaborating with those different writers. I think you said some of that they didn't all speak the same language. And yeah, other kind of challenges did you face other than that? Were there any other obstacles or little small rocks in the way that you came across?
Well, I was very certain that I wanted this book published before Chinese New Year this year. And so I had a deadline. The idea sparked off in 2022, when I started talking to writers from various countries whether they would join me. Some required some persuasion, some came on board immediately. But in the beginning, what we wanted was for the writers to come up with the stories as well as the illustration. And then when we got around discussing, um, I could see immediately, or rather, my Italian friends and writers, they told me that Maria from Literary Menti, she told me that if we have too many types of illustrations in the book, it won't be cohesive. It wouldn't look like a cohesive piece of work. Already the stories are different, the cultures are different, so we needed to keep something to keep it together. And one way to do that was the style of illustration. So that's when we agreed that we would have two Malaysian illustrators to do all the artwork, which was Walid Muhammad and Ariana Ahmad. Now, Walid Muhammad is based in Malacca. He seldom leaves Malacca. And Ariana is based in Dublin. And so we had to work purely online with everyone, the writers included. So it was a challenge, but it was a good challenge because we were still connected and all that. The other um, issue was how to group the story. So finally, we went along with grouping it geopolitically. That means, we started off with Top of the World, basically the story from the Arctic, the Inuit legend, and then we went down to uh, the Southeast Asia region, and then Far East, and then after that, Europe and also Egypt, etc. So we arranged the stories according to the regions. And then we also had this message of sustainability that we wanted to put out. So certain stories had to be themed on its own. And these were some of the challenges, but they were they were welcome challenges, because each challenge that we had, when we discussed it, it became just like a glue to bring us stronger. We had the translators from Italy and uh, from Italy, as well as from China, and also Georgia, and from Indonesian language to English. So we had all these workings, but it was real good, because as a team of writers, I think we became very close and cohesive with each other,
Yeah, yeah. That it
and we met the
hearing
deadline.
about Yeah, yeah. Hearing the entire writing process of how you managed to really bring so many writers together, it completely blows my mind. And I really, really like what you said about the different challenges that even though they were still challenges, but they brought all of you together, which I think a lot of
Yes,
people, sometimes they think that challenges or they're just obstacles. It's like it stops me from getting what I want. But challenges, they can actually help push you forward, which is amazing when you think about it actually. Yeah, and you
yes.
did it. You did it. You actually made a wonderful book with beautiful, beautiful illustrations. It's really, really
Thank you,
amazing.
Natalia. What is more
Yeah,
exciting is having those writers actually tell me that, we did it, we pulled it together. There were some challenges that were pretty that we really had to, I had to be told that maybe this is not the way to do it and all that, but we took it in stride, and then they came back to me and said, it is a beautiful piece of work, and they all want to be part of another project if possible. So yeah, it was a really good experience. What I love the most about this is that Malaysian artists, Malaysian designers get recognized. That is something that is Malaysian professionalism, I think, something that really is the cream. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That is very, very true. Um, yeah, thank you so much for that. I think I'm feeling so inspired right now just listening to hearing you share about the whole process of getting Dragonlore done. And yeah, I feel that Dragonlore it's full of folk tales, which I think is a very interesting choice because I rarely see books or good books at least that good books that are just solely focused on folk tales and especially dragon folk tales. I rarely see books just focus on this type of genre. So I'm just wanted to ask like why did you choose folktales and what do you think is the most special thing that maybe folktale stories have but maybe normal stories they lack or they don't really have that small little spice or ingredient that folktale stories have.
Well, before I did Dragonlore, of course, I've been doing legends and folklore for 20 years. But of course, there is a reason why I choose folktales and legends instead of, purely creative writing and all that. Um, and the reason is this. I suppose it was very natural for me to start with legends and folklore because I've been doing that for about 20 years now. But of course, there is a reason why I choose legend and folklore is because the hikayat or legends and folklores, they are based on the collective memories of people. And because of that, they have survived for hundreds of years, sometimes even more than that. And because of that, they are based on part myth, part fiction, part fact. And the reason why they survive is they always have a lesson to share, or a bit of history to pass on, or a bit of culture to preserve for the next generation. And that is why I feel they're important. They are here to stay, and they are special because they are a gift from the past. So I'd rather take that gift and, I don't know, repackage it or put it together or represent it, but preserve it for sure for the next generation. And the lessons, those which are still relevant, will keep on being told to the next generation, and the rest, they just fall into the cracks. So I feel we have a duty of care to preserve legends and folklore because they have a story to tell from the past. It is a gift from the past. And if we lose them, we lose a little bit of ourselves. So that's why I work very
Yeah, yeah.
hard at sharing legends.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes really I think it's really important that folk tales that they are preserved to like kind of carry the tradition or the culture of the our people of different countries and that so that future generations that they won't forget that that oh that this story was a part of their country, was a part of their tradition, their culture, and it will make it all the more meaningful for other people to enjoy, which I think is a it's already
Exactly.
amazing if you think about it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I think we are so close to ending this talk show. But before that, I would really appreciate it, and I'm pretty sure all the audience would love it as well. If you could give maybe a word or two of encouragement to writers, storytellers, or even people who maybe they dream of becoming future writers, but they're afraid to become one. Like, what do you have to say for them?
Oh, don't let go of your dream. If I wanted to be a writer for as long as I remember, and sometimes in part of my life, in parts of it, I would forget that dream because you become overwhelmed with work, with bringing up a family, or with exams. So you can take a break from it. But if you really truly love it, don't give up on it. And one of the ways not to give up on it is to continue to write. You can write a journal, you can write poetry, you can write interesting ways of writing a menu, which I did when I was an event organizer some time ago. Um, Whatever you do, infuse your world with beautiful words in whatever language you prefer. And let that enrich your life. For the longest time, I was writing just for the sake of writing, and nobody read my blogs or my poetry, or I just wrote for me. And the joy of writing for myself, that is something that I carry with me. Of course, I write now to write books, and uh, I'm working on an encyclopedia at the moment. It is to share with people, but you must be able to write for yourself, to look at a piece of work and say, I like this. This means
Right.
something to me. This means something to me in my life. Continue writing, never stop. That's my advice.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Ninot. I have to say I really respect the sort of vision that you have in this for this world, which is basically to preserve and really just tell the different folk tales that you've steadily collected in your mind over these past years. You're really such a wonderful inspiration to storytellers and
Thank
alike.
you.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this talk show. And
My
yeah, to
pleasure.
everyone who is yeah, yeah, to everyone who is watching, if you stayed till the end, then thank you to you too. Please do get Dragonlore. You can check it out at Hikayat Fandom. I think they're on Instagram and Facebook as well. Hikayat Fandom. Uh,
Yeah,
thank
and
you so
Shopee.
much for tuning in once again. Thank you so much for tuning in. It means a lot to me and definitely to Ninot as well. It's really my hope to inspire more people to pick up a pen, a pencil, or even a keyboard and really just start writing. Like Ninot said earlier, just start writing and don't lose uh, sight of the dream that you have set for yourself. So, really, once again, thank you for joining, and I will see you in the next episode of Cerita.